right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the great Eddy Charger here on Skorch the Fears. We're running on IG Live. We're running on YouTube. We're freaking
What's
making
up?
it
What's up?
happen. Like, damn, I love this. Eddy, you're a
What's
beast,
going
bro.
on?
I just want you to know that. You're an absolute
Man,
beast. I've like,
man.
we've never had a very long one-on-one for too long, so I'm really excited to do
Mm,
this is because like we've obviously known about each other because of sub 2 and all of that. And so for my audience, for the people that don't know you real quick, by the way, people on IG, again, I just posted, all you got to do is look up my name. If you want to watch it on YouTube, that'll be the best quality, but you can also just watch it on IG if you feel like it. So my man, welcome to Skorch the Fears.
There we go. Man, you don't know how long I've been waiting to hear that though, man. What's up, bro? What's
Good
good?
to have
Everybody
you.
that is watching live on IG, appreciate you rocking with us. If you're on YouTube live, also appreciate the love. We're gonna get deep down and dirty over here.
I
It's
love
gonna
it.
get kind of crazy, man.
So Eddy, tell everybody like who you are, what's your business, like give a quick intro into just who you are before we start getting into the fears and all the good
Perfect.
stuff.
Perfect. Let's do it. All right. So I got like two cameras, so my eyes might be everywhere here, right? But I'm gonna do my
Focus on the
official
YouTube one. Focus on the YouTube
buckle.
one. Don't even
All
worry
right,
about the IG
perfect.
one. This is what's
Perfect.
getting
Damn, IG, you
edited.
don't get no love. Somebody
Sorry,
said,
IG.
Eddie,
You guys should go to YouTube. It's way better. Like that's where we're gonna get
somebody,
stuff edited. So focus
somebody
on
said,
YouTube. IG's just kind of there to get people to YouTube.
Eddie, do you take any days off? This is the day off. You know what I mean? This isn't work, right? This is just
Yeah,
hanging
this is
out
just
with
chilling.
with my guy here. So my name, first name Eddie, last name Charger, aka Mama. There goes that man. I'm based out of here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's been my home. Some people call it my city. I like to share though, so it's perfect. Okay, there's a lot of greats where I come from. Originally, I'm from New York. Grew up in Philadelphia. And I did the traditional thing, right? I end up falling in love with an amazing girl with an amazing smile and a big butt, who just so happens to be from the South, right? And so we moved
Love
down
it.
here, and it's been the best ever since. I've always wanted a Southern girl. You know what I mean? Like there's something about the Southern hospitality, how they just everything that they do, man. It's great. So I've been here, man. Just been enjoying life and getting ready for these like amazing new chapters that I've already seen playing in my head.
And you're a real
That's
estate investor, so
going
tell us
to
like
it.
what's your business right now?
All right. So my business right now, we like to say for 2023, right? Because things kind of changed. And so for right now, I like to say myself and my partners, we are doing what's called the cash flow triangle. So we're
Okay.
investors and we focus on three major things, right? So I am heavy in short-term rental, mid-term rental, extremely deep. I'm just getting started in this, but we're going extremely deep on Section 8 affordable housing. And then the last piece of the triangle is commercial real estate, right? So if you guys probably follow me already, I've been doing a lot in the multifamily space, and that's also including storage units.
So
And
all
so
buy
that's
and hold. It sounds like you're
oh,
only doing buy
everything.
and hold.
Everything is
Everything.
buying. I'm probably going to be the most stingy investor that you know. I'll never sell. Never
Nice.
sell.
Okay. So no wholesale, no flipping, just keeping on to everything you buy.
Well, no, no. So I didn't get rid of my other businesses, right? So I still have an investment company that does wholesaling. I have an amazing team who's probably watching me right now, but should be off the clock. So I have like Ashley, who's my acquisition manager, Anastasia, who is she does all of our lands and lot deals. I have a young lady who actually today's her birthday. Happy birthday, Stacy.
Happy
Uh,
birthday,
she
Stacey.
she does all of our JV deals. So like when people send me JV deals and stuff like that, she's the first one that gets to it and kind of works through everything. And then I got like my dispo guys on the team that kind of kill it. So I have Franklin and I have Dylan who, help us out. And I got
Okay, so you're
Rhonda
just a
who
beast overall.
dude,
Sounds like
I
you
got it
own
all.
several multifamily units,
I
storage
got it all.
apartments, Airbnbs, doing some
No,
flips, doing
listen,
some
check this
wholesales.
out.
What a
Here's
beast.
something real cool that we got going on. So, myself and two of my partners, right? They're actually the ones that started the podcast. We just started a podcast, and they're my partners in it. But
Ooh.
we started a brokerage, right? And so we have Top Brokerage, which
Holy.
is just focused on working with investors.
Hmm.
So that's going to be dope. You're going to see some cool stuff. But yeah, I keep busy. I like this, man. I kind of,
I love it. Damn. So that's crazy. Brokerage, owning commercial, wholesaling, some flipping, some Airbnbs. You're just doing everything. We're just gonna like throw out. the whole 9 yards. I
Do it
love it.
while I'm young. Get it in while
Yeah,
I'm
hell
young.
yeah, hell yeah.
You know what I
Okay,
mean?
so overall, a huge beast. So an amazing guy to learn from. One of the guys I've seen in Sub 2 doing so many cool things, and I'm so glad he's on here today. So I'm going to start it off the same way that I start off all of these, right? And basically, it's this. When you were starting off, like, what was your when we're let's go back to Eddy at the very beginning. What were your like deepest fears? What were like the things that were like keeping you back right when you were starting, before you had done any deals, when you were
Yeah.
just starting off?
Yeah. So this is gonna be wild because the honest to God truth, this is probably is gonna connect to a lot of people. My deepest fear when I was starting off was not being enough. Right? Like it's one of the things that, and I haven't understood yet why that happens. Like what in our childhood that kind of summons this thing up. But it's this like thought that you have that's continuing being told by the greatest liar that you know, and that's yourself. Right. And so I think that was one of the main things that kind of like was the first shock for me, right? Like when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go do this, and it's like everybody else is seeing me from the outside, like, yeah, you could do that, bro. Like, oh, yeah, you could do that. And then on the inside, I'm having the self-doubt, the self-talk that's negative, just the things that are like behind closed doors, nobody else sees, but I'm battling with trying to figure out like, am I enough? Like, can I really do this? Can I really buy up my first home? Like, are they gonna take me serious? Can I really talk to this person? And that's like a really deep thing because it happens in not just like business or real estate, it's just like in life, right? We always believe the biggest liar in the room, which is ourselves internally.
And so can I ask what where do you think that came from? Like, for instance, for me, one of my greatest fears was always spending money, right? And I think you hit it on the nail where it comes from childhood. Mine
Yeah.
was I had issues spending money because my mom and my dad had constantly been saying, save for a rainy day, don't spend more than you make, like all of this stuff, which like
Yeah.
in
Kind of
certain
just,
contexts are great advice,
yeah.
but like it's middle class thinking a
Yeah.
little bit versus like rich people thinking is like use debt. Like, yeah, you don't have all the money, but that's okay. Like, there's such things as good debt. So, what do you think? Do you think it was something your parents told you? Do you think it was something else? Where do you think
Yeah.
that fear might have come from?
Yeah, so I've done, because of this fear I had, right? I've done a lot of extensive research just like on myself, and I continue to do so. Like I'm a huge scholar when it comes to especially like the mind, right? And so I'm certified teacher NLP, and I'm doing a lot of things when it comes to mindset and things like that. And for what I've discovered, believe it or not, a lot of the, let's call it traumas, right? Because that's what it is, right? Like what you talked about, your parents thought they were helping you, but what they were doing was installing a trauma into you that is impeding a growth that you're trying to get through, or that you tried to get through, right? Obviously now you surpassed that, right? But that was the thing. So for me, believe it or not, it started when I had no idea it was taking place. And this is going to sound kind of wild, but we'll go with me on this one, right? It started when I was in my mom's belly.
Oh,
So I had no real understanding of things, right? But you know how like the mom and the child are very connected, right? Like if the
yeah.
child is feeling something, the mom showcases, right? If the
Hmm.
mom is feeling something, the child actually feels that. So
Right.
when I was born, or around the time I was born, my parents were separate, right? So my parents are Haitian immigrants, and my dad was not in the same place that my mom was in. My dad was working in a whole different country. My mom was here in the States in New York City in the 80s. All
Hmm.
right. My mom didn't speak any English. And, at that time, my mom was like going to work at a factory, speaking zero to zero enough amount of English. And in the middle of like winter storms, walking around because she had no car and didn't fully understand transportation because she just came from Haiti. She's walking around pregnant, right? And
Mm.
so there's a lot of like things that she was being told and self-doubt she was having about just like what was going on at that time that she was experiencing and that was being downloaded by me.
Interesting. So you basically think that like a lot of these things, like a lot of the fears that you had as an entrepreneurship literally started when you were inside your mom and she was dealing with her own traumatic things, and that these
Mhm.
feelings were penetrating into your body. And that makes sense. I mean, like if she's stressed, that means her cortisol levels rise, which means like and
No.
that blood's going through you, right? Like there's also all the neurochemical reactions that are happening in her happen in you.
Hmm.
So that is insane. This is the first time I've ever heard someone go that far back. So
Oh yeah, it gets deeper,
crazy,
right?
bro.
And that when you get a little bit older, like in your toddler years, it's easier, and a lot of times it happens and we don't know, right? Like who knows us better than our kids, right? Like our
Right.
kids know every small little detail about you on an emotional level. So when our parents are like bickering or fighting or like in a real stressful situation, that energy that they have and you're around that, like you take that in too, and they don't even know they're giving it to you, right? Like they didn't have the tools necessary to kind of deal with that, and so we grow up with that.
Gotcha. So you think your mom was dealing with stuff when she was pregnant with you, and then it translated into the fears of like you weren't good enough. So how did you overcome that? Because that's from the birth. That's very genetic. So
Yeah.
that's insane. That sounds insanely hard to come over. What were your
Hmm.
methods for coming over it? Because now you're an insanely successful entrepreneur. What
Yeah.
what did you do?
So here's the thing, right? Like when you're in trauma and everyone else around you is in trauma, you don't know that you're in trauma, right?
Mm,
So growing up, I didn't know that I kind of had this issue, right? It wasn't until you kind of get exposed to different lifestyle, different people, and kind of realize like, hey, well, what is it about them versus about me that kind of makes the change? And that was the first thing, right? Exposure. That was kind of like the window to another way of living life without having to kind of go through the mental anguish or process that I have to go through every time I want to make a decision that's supposed to be better for me, right? And so it's the continuing doing research and seeking out individuals who are talking about how to heal, right? How to
mm,
eliminate, how to not place blame, right? Because it's like it's not your fault. You want to be angry at somebody. I'm not gonna be angry at my mom. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
so it's like, what do you do with that feeling that you have that you want to kind of release onto somebody? You got to learn ways to be able to deal with that. And it's one by me understanding that there was a problem there, and then two, seeking out, counsel via books or like seminars, or even if you had to like go to speak to a person, right? Like maybe a therapist or a coach or something like that to be able to kind of like walk you back through things. That's what's beneficial. And I've done all of that. And I will continue to do all of that because
Are
even
there
as,
any resources you recommend, like that you would recommend with somebody who dealt with the trauma that like you had to deal with growing up? It
oh,
sounds
yeah,
like
yeah. So here's the first thing I'd recommend, right? If you're dealing with trauma,
we're getting the real sauce, guys. Like for like I'm getting this whole podcast is about disbanding every single fear possible so that you're able to achieve your dreams through
yeah,
entrepreneurship and real estate. So
it's gonna be dope. So the first thing is gonna be really unorthodox, but it's necessary, believe it or not.
okay.
The first thing is you got to become a go giver. In fact, that's
Mm,
the title of a book that I would gladly make sure everybody gets a copy of if I can. But just download it if you can see it. It's by Bob Berg, and essentially the book talks about being able to stop trying to receive and just give, right?
mhm.
And not give in the event of like, well, it's going to come back to me, right? Just freely give. And the reason why that's the most important and first thing I think when it comes to dealing with trauma is when you're dealing with trauma, then you become aware of the trauma. You develop this like obsession to like want to be righted. Like, okay, everything needs to change or need to happen because I'm owed this, right? They're like, I need this because I would had this, or I'm a touchy subjects here, right? Like, I don't deserve this because I got abused. I don't deserve
Right.
this because I was touched by someone. I don't deserve this. And so now you need to make sure you change and make it about me. And in return, what we're doing is basically fight or flight, right? Like you were traumatized. And so now you're treating other people that's around you in a way that's traumatic to them. And so
Right.
essentially all you're doing is repeating the cycle. And so by learning to become a go-giver, you remove that sense of like, this should be for me. And now you're making it to someone else. And there's something about that element that opens you up to the process of healing and understanding, right? Like being able to give to someone else without the expectation of something in return is like, it's the cheat code to, I think, almost everything you can think of.
Can you give us an example of being a go-giver that helped you kind of get over these fears or get over these traumas? Can you think of
Oh
one?
yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's
Okay.
extremely easy, especially when you're broke.
Easy.
When you are broke, let me tell you, it's so easy for you to be a go-giver, right? Because
Because you
you,
got nothing.
you got nothing, right? And that's a crazy thing about it, right? Like most people think, okay, if you're the richest man or woman on earth, you're the perfect match to be a go-giver.
Mm-hmm.
When in all reality, right? Like the less you have, the more impactful what you give is actually received. So there's a book that I absolutely love, and there's a story in that book that talks about there was this like place in the middle of this town that every particular day the people in the town would come and they would give like whatever their earnings was, a percentage of it. Okay, so those that had a little bit kind of gave or whatever like that. Those that had a lot made it a big deal, right? Like they had like guards come in, trumpets played. It was a real spectacle, so you can see them drop the big bag because this is them giving back, right? And then one of the guys that was there, he was a teacher, and he was watching this with his students. And it was a young lady that came, and she took out of this dusty bag 2 cents, and she dropped it in, right? And everybody kind of was like, "Man, she should just kept that. Like, what is that? That's not worth anything." And the teacher was like, what you failed to understand is what she gave was worth more than what the guy with the big bag gave, simply because that was the true essence of all that she had. And she could have kept it, but she gave it.
Isn't that also, I'm pretty sure, isn't there like a parable with like Jesus and like a person who
That's
did that?
that's that's the exact same story. Yeah.
Okay,
The,
yeah,
the
yeah.
book
Okay.
is the Bible.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was
The book
saying.
is
I was
the
like,
Bible.
I'm pretty sure that's in the Bible.
It,
Okay,
it's
that's all
it's
right. There we
it's
go.
a it's a real
I
parable.
ruined the
Yeah.
punchline there.
I get a lot of my like studies and teachings and stuff like that. I get a lot because parables are teachings that stand the test of time, right?
Right.
They're like principles, right? And so a principle doesn't change. A principle is like a law. You know what I mean? So it's like no matter how long of times you go, what comes up must come down is going to be it for forever, right? And so that's an example. I would kind of tell you guys like how being able to give the least of what you have benefits you in a big way. So like me personally, one I can give one that I did recently, right? So a lot of times people are, Atlanta has a huge homeless population issue, right? And so that's one of the reasons why like I'm really going big in the affordable housing section. So I want to be able to help, and I have like big goals and to be able to dive into that. But there was a young guy with his son that was out and had a sign, and it just wasn't a good look. You know what I mean? It wasn't an environment that you would want to see a guy out there, let alone with a young kid or whatever like that, right? And at the time, I got no money on me, right? I got one card, and when I mean I'm pressed for time right now, I'm legit pressed for time, right? On top of that, the guy is standing across the street on an intersection that in order for me to get to him, I have to do something illegal. All right, if that makes sense. Like the way when I
You
the,
have
the
to
direction
cross
I'm
like
headed,
a
yeah,
red light or
I
something.
gotta
Yeah.
I gotta risk my life a little bit to be able to get to him. All right.
Okay.
And so I turn on my blick and I'm like, man, let me just go. Right. And internally I knew that if I just turned left and just like went on my way, I would have regretted that moment. I don't know why, but I just knew deep down, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not how you should do it. That's not who you are. So I got across the street to him, right? And I just asked him, like, hey, tell me what's going on. What do you need? Right. And, he starts to pour his heart out to me. Long story short, we end up spending like 45 minutes, an hour together, hung out with him and his kid, took them to their hotels, got them a couple of nights worth of You know, I paid for a couple of nights for them to prolong the stay of where they were staying, whatever. Gave my contact information, and turns out because of that, now watch this, watch how this works. Because of that, he had reached back out to me, and he told me like, hey, I was able to not be out anymore and stayed in the house, got a good night rest. The following day, he actually had an opportunity with a casting director because turns out he was actually a singer. He just happened to be down on his luck, and him and his wife was actually at the hotel, currently pregnant. Okay, they just happen to be going through a crazy situation right now.
Wait, sorry, let
And
me interrupt just so I understand. So he was on the
yeah,
side of the road and he needed money?
he needed they was looking for, he was trying to get money so that he can basically feed his wife and
Gotcha.
the young
Okay.
child and the baby that's in the belly.
Gotcha.
So I helped him in any way that I could. And because of that, right, he was able to go home, well, not go home, but go back to the hotel, not have to deal with what he was going to have to deal with that night.
Right.
He ended up getting a, you know, like a casting position to sing
Love
in
it.
some sort of thing, whatever like that, right? Now, will I ever see this guy again? Probably not, right? Atlanta's
Right.
a big place. Who knows, right?
Right.
The point is, for that time frame, I wasn't focused on myself.
Hmm.
I was solely focused to pour anything and everything that I had to be able to help him.
Right.
Okay. And because of that change, like, you ever heard of the butterfly effect?
Yes.
All right. So
But tell
in
the
the
people what it is. Tell
so
what the people what it
in
is.
the butterfly effect, there's like a study that says like when a butterfly can flap its wings like in Japan, for example, or whatever like that, and the just the butterfly flapping his wings, technically all the way over here, like we feel that, right? So
Hmm.
it's like every one thing that happens, it has an effect into like several other major great things, right? Now, I don't know what the result of that is going to be. If that means tomorrow someone's going to say, hey, I want to give you $100 million or whatever, that's not the point. The butterfly effect that I got was the innate feeling of being
Hmm.
able to help someone without expecting anything or needing anything in return. And in that time frame, if I had self-doubt or if I had any like negative traumas that I was still dealing with, you no longer sense it. Like
Right.
you can't feel those negative things or the traumas when you're focused on helping others.
100%. That was 100% what I was about to get into too, because the thing that a lot of times happens because we have like I don't even know if you're religious at all, but like a
I
lot of
am very
times,
much so. I
yeah,
say I'm a practicing Christian, right? So I'm always
right.
trying to get it right.
I love it. Right. And I like playing devil's advocate. I've always like I grew up kind of like I'm a little bit more agnostic. I'm not as
Mhm.
religious, but what I like about this stuff, guys, that we're talking about is even if you don't believe in the universe, even if you're like, no, that's hocus pocus, like I don't believe in God, I don't believe in any of this, blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. There's like a scientific reality behind this too, which is what
Yeah.
Eddie was also getting into of it's literally making you feel different. It is changing your biology, doing things
Mhm.
like that. When you go out and you like risk your life a little bit, go out and like
Right.
give to somebody else, this is going to change your biology. And I think it literally heals the trauma that you've been dealing with your entire life because in that moment you feel at peace. They call
Mhm.
these are rules of the universe because there is a scientific basis behind them. So it's not even if you aren't spiritual, like literally, you're going to feel so much better for having done that, taking the 2 minutes out of the day to make that guy's life better in a sense that it has already come back to Eddie tenfold. I guarantee whatever he did that day for that man, Eddie got tenfold of that. And I've noticed this entirely in my entire life that it's not only a law of the universe, I'm spiritual too. Like I wouldn't say I'm agnostic as much. I'm spiritual in the sense that like I give into charity where I give 10K and I get 10x back almost always. It's really
Mhm.
weird.
Mhm.
And it's actually like a little people don't know this. There's a small verse in if getting biblical in like the Old Testament that's about like this is the
Mhm.
one thing you can test God on. Like the one thing you can test God on is giving to charity or giving to others and seeing if you get more back. He says don't test him on anything else, but this one thing you can literally test me and it works. And I think it's literally because of how you feel on the inside as well, and like spreading that goodness, spreading that joy is definitely an amazing way of healing the trauma. And I love it that you're bringing this up because I think it's the number one way to do it, is to like getting over. You cannot feel fear when you feel gratefulness and like happiness for
It's
having it.
impossible.
It's impossible.
Can't
It's
happen.
not possible to have those two feelings at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like I like when I've made it a habit when like I'm having a bad day to try to donate $500 if I'm like not going crazy with it, and
That's
like I'll
fine.
feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah.
Like everything's gonna be okay. Donate $500, things are gonna work out, and they always do work out in the end.
Yeah.
It always does, every single time. So I love that you brought this up, man. Like I love that idea of, to get over fear, give to somebody. Give. It doesn't have to be money if you don't have any money, by the way, guys, right? Like you can give time, you can give, like you can just be there for a friend. You can like say I love you to your mom. It can literally be anything that like is just a little gift that you can give to somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. So I love that, man. I love that
And
as
it,
like a
and
great
it,
way of doing it.
it doesn't have to be like, when you're like, oh, I'm in a bind, let me go give, right? Like you should always, like, something
Right.
I've been doing for the past couple of years now is like on my birthdays, like I don't want any gifts. I don't want anything. Like I go and give my time the whole entire day to different organizations. Right?
Love
Like
it.
what better way to celebrate the day that you should be getting the most or whatever like that by continuing to give, right? And so different ways you could be able to do it for sure.
I love it. Awesome. Are any other ways that you like curing trauma, or is that like the main way?
I
Also,
think
you're getting
that's
some love in here.
that's one of the ways to what oh
You,
what's up? What's up, everybody? I
yeah,
see Peter in the house.
you're getting some love in here. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh man.
That's a great way of
So
curing trauma.
I think that's probably one of the first ways, and I think it's one of the easiest ways, especially because a lot of times, if you want to seek out professional help to kind of help you go through some things, it's at a cost, right? And so I don't want anybody to listen to this and be like, oh man, I would do it, but I can't afford to. And so I'm just gonna have
Right.
to keep it going until I can afford. Like, no, you can actually start without the professional help because as human beings, you have the power to heal yourself in
Mm,
every capacity,
I love
right?
it.
I know those that are out there will make you believe that you can't, like you're incapable of, but the truth of the matter is you can, right? Now you may need someone to guide you along that way, which is perfect, right? But I think one of the other things that I follow in life and in business, especially when we're talking about this, is having the proper expectations, right? So if
Mm,
you're dealing with trauma, okay, from something that happened or something that just was impactful to you, you can't expect you to go to a seminar or read a book and be like, okay, this should help. And then when the help doesn't in turn look the way that you wanted it to, now say, well, it doesn't work. I can't be fixed. Like I know so many people who are like in their 60s and 70s and refuse to change how
mm,
they like do things in life simply because they grew up or had something traumatic happen to them and or something fearful that's holding them back. And because they tried several times before to get it right and it didn't, they just gave up. And they're like,
right.
and we hear people like, right, well, this is how I am. It's just the way I am.
Right.
And even worse is people who are just we make excuses for them, right? Because we love them. So we're just like, man, don't worry about that. That's just how grandpapa is, right? That's just how, whatever.
It's so
And
bad. It's so bad
that's
because the word is so powerful. What you say aloud becomes reality. So I'm just
anytime. Yeah. If
reinforcing it.
you own up, if you own up to your not own up, if you claim your trauma becomes yours. And
Mm,
no one is going to try to wrestle that from you. So you got to make sure that stop claiming it. Stop using it as your scapegoat for why you react or do things the way that you do. Recognize
mm,
that it is a problem, right? And then be able to start making it work. Like so again, there's certain books you should read. I wish I could kind of give you guys like here's what book to read, but everybody's trauma is different. So I
right.
can't necessarily, right?
Give
But
us a few. Just give us a
so
few that you like.
I would listen. There's a bunch here. So my library is to the side. I can just read off of here, right? So I told you to Go Giver. One that I like is the Underdog Advantage by what's his name? That's Dean Graziosi,
Oh,
right?
nice.
That's a really good book because it allows you to. A lot of people continue to see like, oh, well, that's nice. Like that's good for them. That could never be me, right? people do that, like oh, I can see how, for example, Pace, right? Oh, I can see how Pace could be X, Y, and Z or talking on stages, but that can never be me though. And sometimes they
Why
don't even
not?
say why it couldn't be done, right?
Yeah,
It's just
why
like,
not, man?
why not? Like, what? Why couldn't it be you, right? And so the mentality has to change, right?
Mm,
That's one of the biggest things when dealing with like your fear. It's
hmm.
first acknowledging it, and then changing the mentality by being able to have understanding of the trauma, right? Like
Right.
I used to be, and I'm still like, if my little sister's seen this right now, she'd probably be like, nah, he's still scared of spiders. So here, I'm not afraid of spiders, right? Here's the thing. I don't like the fact that spiders can move so fast, right? Like I grew up in the hood, right? If you jump on me real quick, I got a buck, right? So that's my thing with
That's
spiders.
funny.
But I have two young kids now, right? My son is 8, my daughter's 3. And
Okay.
sometimes, a spider will come in the house, right? And I can't be acting all scared, right? This time, so how do you go
Mm,
about like dealing with something like that? It's very simple, right? I started to do research and understand everything that I could about a spider. And now,
interesting.
because I have the understanding, the fear is no longer there because I know how to handle, what to handle. I even know which situations is probably not a situation I want to deal with. Like if I was in Australia and I saw a spider, I'll never be in Australia. Sorry to the good people out there. But Australia is the only place that I know in the
Sorry,
world that,
Australia, you're not gonna
oh
get
my
any Eddie.
God,
Sorry, guys.
so many
Sorry, just
different
not
things that could
happening.
kill you. I'm like, no way. Like, especially the spiders. Spiders as big as my
Uh,
head.
I love it. So, okay, so what I'm getting from that, I'm going to repeat what I really got from especially the spider story is that knowledge is another way of getting over trauma, of like understanding, okay, here's what I'm afraid of, or like, here's what's causing me trauma. Let me research it. Let me understand to the T every single thing that's bothering me right now and like
Mhm.
what is causing it. And through understanding, just by the power of understanding what's causing the fear or the trauma, that
Yep.
in and of itself solves it. Is that what you're saying? Is that what we're
Absolutely.
talking about? Love it.
Because what's the goal that we're trying to get to, right? The goal we're trying to get to, and I said it in the beginning, it's like having the proper expectation, right? If you don't know what your outcome is, or don't know what you should be, what should look like an outcome, like you'll never be able to succeed. And so getting that knowledge allows you to be able to have a better expectation of what's the outcome. Like what could happen if a spider came into his room? Like most people are like my mother-in-law. She is deathly afraid of snakes.
Hmm.
It could be a small one, it could be a big one, doesn't matter. If a snake if a snake slides into this room, right? My daughter would go pick up the snake and my mother-in-law will pass out. She's gone. You see what I'm saying?
All right.
Why is that? Because in her mind, her expectation is, whatever traumatic thing that she went through, when she sees a snake, immediately that's what happens. She has no real understanding of like how to handle it, what should be done, or et cetera, et cetera. And so therefore the trauma is just gonna go deeper and deeper in.
Right. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely noticed that. And I'll just add one part onto what you've already said is like the next step for me also with some of my fears is understanding it. And then I've learned this was a Jordan Peterson thing. I'm a pretty big Jordan
Oh yeah,
Peterson
Jordan
fan.
Peterson, he's the bomb. I
Great
love
guy.
him.
And what he talked about with fear, like what psychologists do to get over fears, to get over phobias, is you understand it, you do that first part you were talking about, and then slowly expose it to yourself, like
Mhm.
voluntarily.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is it's crazy. Apparently, what ends up happening is it's not that you become less afraid, it's that you become more courageous, that you
Mhm.
like you gain the courage. Because what courage is, right, guys, is like courage is doing things in the face of fear. It's
Right.
not having fear. Not if you don't have any fear, you're a lunatic,
Yeah,
right? Like
something's
you're
wrong.
not. Yeah,
Okay.
something's wrong. You need that fear. Some fear is healthy, right? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need
yeah.
some fear.
Uh-huh.
Um, but in terms of like that is the definition of courage. And I feel like that's what's amazing about these communities like Sub 2 and Astro and stuff like that is they give you they can do things like expose yourself to small amounts of what you're afraid of. So like a common fear a lot of people have is like cold calling, right? Like people are afraid of cold calling. They're like bothering somebody. Somebody's going to swear at them, all of that type of stuff. I think the best way to do it to get over somebody's fear is one, the understanding part, which the understanding part I tell to people is someone will swear at you if you're cold calling. It's going to happen and it's going to be totally fine. Nothing
you won't
bad
die.
to happen. You're not going to die. You're going to be totally fine. And then at the very end of it, you're going to be totally fine. And you're going to be like back to doing like the next call, and you're going to forget about it by the next day easily. Yeah. So that's my little 2 cents too of how to get over a fear of like what you're doing. And that's one that can also be applied to this industry, which is just another way to do it. So my man, you so far have beaten the record for not even having talked about your story at all, just going into mindset immediately for 37 minutes.
It's a big part of my story, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mindset is everything, man.
No, 100%. Like just in the sense that the fact that you're able to talk about mindset for this much I love it. It's impressive. It means you have incredible amounts of wisdom, and I've been enjoying every single moment of it. And I guarantee you, the people who are on this, comment in the YouTube chat if you've been enjoying this too. Amazing stuff. So how did you get into entrepreneurship? How did that start? Start us down the rabbit hole.
All right. So the famous line is, ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a drug dealer, right? Like that's the line from the movie. But no, I honestly
watch that movie.
When, you gotta come over. We're gonna do a cookout. I'll put it on.
In Atlanta, I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah. I think I was paid in full. But truthfully, man, like I grew up in Philadelphia, and we had entrepreneurs. I was surrounded around entrepreneurs in my neighborhood, right? At the time, what they were selling probably was not legal or had any sort of schooling behind it. But I remember the impact that they had, right? And the influence that it had on like my neighborhood and like all the kids that was rocking around with me and playing ball and stuff like that. And then, I've always just loved the fact that you can be able to build something out of nothing. That's always been my thing, right? And one day, these same entrepreneurs end up having to deal with the repercussions of what they were doing and got hauled off to jail. And immediately I was like, I'm looking for a new type of business to get into, right? Like I don't want to do anything like this.
So
like
you started with drug dealing?
Well, no, I didn't start. Okay. Like I said, my parents were Haitian. There's no way I was gonna be able to deal with
gotcha.
Household,
Gotcha.
Right? But that was the influence, right? It was just like, yo, like that's cool. Like you gotta remember, when you're growing up and like all you know is your neighborhood, you don't really know the concept of what is right or is wrong until something big happens, right? And so when that big event took place and I watched these people go to jail and not come back, it was like, okay, this isn't like I want to be able to build a business. I want to be able to solve problems, but I don't want to do it illegally, right? So what are the ways that I can do it? And here's the thing: the reason why I didn't have no clue what they were doing was right or wrong is because I wasn't exposed to what a good business person actually looks like. Outside of TV, there was no other way for me to be exposed to that where I grew up from, right? And so as time continued to progress, I started putting myself in the same alignment with individuals that were solving problems, giving value, and made businesses out of it, right? And I was hooked, man. Like I became the like banker in my family. I've always been about money, just always been about learning new things and solving problems.
So when was this? So like you saw the drug dealers and you were like, screw that, I want to do this legally. And then what do you mean? Like, what was your first business venture? Or like, what was it just you start researching money, or like get into the specifics of the timeline?
Yeah. So when I saw this was when I was in Philly. So this is about 8 or 9 when I had that change take place. And then shout out to my mom. Both my parents have been hustlers all my life. Like my mom have had several businesses. My dad has consistently worked on the weekends. We used to go to the flea market. And we would literally wake up at the crack ass of dawn and pile everything into this huge U-Haul that we had. I mean, I was like 13 years old and I was selling bras and panties to women at a flea market. And I got like really good.
That's wild.
my parents' English wasn't the best. So they would like translate to me, and I would have to like tell this lady that she's actually a 34D and not a 34B, and why she needs to pick this set because it's actually on sale, right? So it was like,
And honestly, it's always a backup, dude. If real estate doesn't work out, you can always go back to
I'm
translating the 34Bs, 34Ds.
if everything falls down tomorrow, I'm selling bras and panties in it. It's like it's not even a
Love it.
second
That'd be
thought for me.
sick.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean, it would be the best secondary job right behind real
It's
estate.
not that bad.
That's all I gotta say.
I can do what I can do. But yeah, man. But after that, right? My parents brought clothes. We were selling clothes. They brought. And I first learned wholesaling from my parents, right? We used to drive to New York. I remember this like yesterday. It was kind of crazy, right? We drove to New York and we were under a bridge, just random place. We met some dude. He opened up his truck and he had, I want to say it was like 8 or 9 boxes filled of like telephones, right? And it was just like, I mean, filled to the brim, overflowing telephones. And they was like, all right, boom, let's do it. And I was like, I feel like something illegal is happening here, right? My parents like, shut up, get in the car. So we get these boxes, come home, we clean the phones, repackage them, and then I'm out selling phones, bras, and panties, bro, and like making it work, right?